So let me set the scene for you. A dimly lit boardroom with members engaged in heated discussion. The camera pans across the room, capturing the intensity of the moment. So this is what you'd hear the narrator saying. In a bustling city inside a historic building, a group of dedicated individuals gather around a polished wooden table. They represent the board of a renowned membership nonprofit, and today's agenda is a game changer. A new project that promises to revolutionize their outreach. As discussions progress, the atmosphere is electric with anticipation. But then, a revelation that sends shockwaves through the room. One of the board members, a respected figure, stands to gain personally from the project's success. The room goes silent, the weight of the revelation sinking in. What happens next will test the very core of their leadership. And so the story begins. But welcome to the nonprofit life. So today we're journeying into the heart of board leadership. We're going to be exploring the nuances of board governance, the transformative power of effective leadership, and the potential pitfalls that can arise from missteps. So whether you're a new board member or a veteran, there's always something new to learn. So what we're going to start with are the 3 pillars of fiduciary duties for a board member. And this is really the essence of our episode today on the nonprofit life. And those 3 are the duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of obedience. But before we delve into real life scenarios, let's understand the bedrock of board leadership. So these 3 duties, every board member should be aware of, are defined as follows. So the first one is duty of care. Important, all 3 are important, of course. This duty mandates that the board members exercise the same care that a reasonably prudent person would in a similar situation and under similar circumstances. So again, duty of care, it's that an individual uses the same care that a reasonably prudent person would in a similar position under similar circumstances. It's about being diligent, informed, and engaged. So one of the other things is board members must actively participate, stay updated on organizational matters, and make decisions after thorough consideration. So again, good business judgment needs to take place as you're serving as a nonprofit board member. So the next one is duty of loyalty. So duty of loyalty. So this duty requires board members to act in the best interest of the nonprofit, even if it might conflict with your personal interests. It's about putting the organization first, ensuring transparency, and avoiding conflicts of interest. I worked with one organization where they started the meeting and they had hats on the table. The logo of the membership organization was actually on the hat. And ceremoniously, they actually put the hat on their head saying, now we are going to wear the hat of the nonprofit. So again, it's okay to have a conflict of interest. It's okay to bring a conflict of interest into the board meeting. It just needs to be disclosed. We'll talk a little bit about that later. The third one is duty of obedience. So board members have to ensure that the nonprofit adheres to its stated mission and complies with all laws and regulations. So remember, your mission is within your strategic plan. So that means being loyal to that strategic plan that's been set. It's also about staying true to the organization's core purpose and ensuring legal compliance. So these 3 duties are not merely suggestions from me, nor did I make them up. So they are legal fiduciary responsibilities. Again, I want to stress legal. So the Internal Revenue Service, or the IRS as we call them, also states these statutes and defines them within their core documents. As board members of a nonprofit, you are not just leaders or decision makers. You are trustees of a state corporation. So this also means that your nonprofit is incorporated in your specific state as a corporation. And with that comes a set of legal and fiduciary responsibilities as well. So being incorporated provides your nonprofit with legal protections, but also places on you, the board members, the duty to act in the best interest of the organization and its mission. Furthermore, while your nonprofit might be recognized at the state level to be exempt from federal income tax, so this is important, so you may be recognized and incorporated at the state level, you must also apply to the IRS for your tax exempt status. And this is done through either an application 1023 or 1024. Once approved, the IRS then issues a letter of determination confirming that your organization is exempt from federal income tax. This is a crucial distinction because while many organizations might be recognized as nonprofits at the state level, not all have this tax-exempt status at the federal level. So you can actually do a search at the Secretary of State and you can pull up a nonprofit. It will be registered as a nonprofit, but it may not have filed with the IRS for its tax-exempt status. So when we talk about the IRS, in its guidelines for tax-exempt organizations, it emphasizes the importance of governance practices, actually good governance practices. So that includes adhering to the fiduciary duties that we talked about. Again, the 3R: duty of care, loyalty, and obedience. So while the IRS does not mandate specific governance practices, it does not. It believes that organizations with strong governance are more likely to obey tax laws, which is important. It's the IRS. Safeguard their charitable membership assets and serve their nonprofit interests. So this is why the IRS asks about an organization's governance practices. When you look at your Form 990, it talks about fiduciary responsibilities on that Form 990, which tax-exempt organizations are required to file. So state laws. So where your nonprofit is incorporated also emphasizes those three duties. Again, duty of care, loyalty, and obedience. While the specifics might vary slightly from state to state, the core principles of the duties of care, loyalty, and obedience remain consistent. So violating these duties can lead to legal consequences, so including personal liability for board members in some cases. So again, it's just not a suggestion, but it is a way of doing business as a board member. So it's crucial for every board member, if you're sitting on the board, to be aware of these legal responsibilities and ensure that they are consistently being upheld. So if you wanted to find the specifics within your state of those defined duties of care, loyalty, and obedience, go to your Secretary of State, look up nonprofit state statutes, and they will be spelled out right there. So these three duties not only form the foundation and ethical and effective board governance, but what they also do is protect your organization and your mission from potential legal and financial pitfalls. So if we look at those three things, so let's look at the power and peril of conflicts of interest. So that's the one thing that comes up all the time. It's like, what hat am I wearing? Whose interest am I serving? Is it my company's? Is it the organization? Is it my chapter? Is it my donors? Whatever it is. Conflicts of interest are not inherently bad. You can come into a board meeting and have a conflict of interest. That's okay. Most of us probably do in one way or another because we have an opinion on how we want to move in either one direction or the other. So they're inevitable and can even bring valuable perspectives to the table. The key is how they're managed. So like I mentioned, every board member will, at some point, face a potential conflict of interest. The critical aspect is transparency. Conflicts have to be disclosed to the board. You have to disclose any conflict that you have. Once disclosed, the board can take appropriate action. So what they could say is they can ask the conflicted board member to recuse themselves from related discussions or decisions. So consider this a hypothetical. Lisa, she's a board member whose cousin runs a catering business. The nonprofit is hosting a gala and needs a caterer. Lisa suggests her cousin's business and discloses their relationship. The board, appreciating her transparency, evaluates the catering option on its merit, separate from Lisa's personal connection. So in that case, Lisa should not be voting either for or against any companies that are providing bids or proposals to the board. She should recuse herself from that. And I would recommend that Lisa actually recuses herself from the conversation. Just pull yourself out and say, I'm leaving the room. Let the board make the decision. So what I'm also doing is including a sample policy for you. It's in the description below, and it's something that you can use in the future. But just a quick note: association options, myself. Association options is my company. Myself. We're not attorneys or accountants, nor do we provide legal advice. So always vet anything you see or hear from this channel as well as anywhere else with your legal counsel. So the next thing is, how do we build an ethical board culture? So an ethical board culture is the foundation of a successful nonprofit. It's just not about following rules. It's about creating an environment where every decision, every action, and interaction is guided by integrity. So one of the things I recommend is regular training sessions, workshops, and discussions on ethics, as well as board development. We do a lot of that work. And what we do provide and what we hear after we do our trainings is we can help board members navigate complex situations and things that were on their mind that they had doubts and and questions around. So by conducting some of these sessions, what it does is fosters open communication. So you have folks talking about this stuff during the board development session or an ethics session. It promotes transparency, and also it encourages continuous learning. So nonprofits can build a board that's both effective and ethical at the same time. And it's important, if you're going to be a legal fiduciary and safeguarding and looking after the duties of care, loyalty, and obedience, you need to know what they mean and what their implications are. So if you've liked what you've heard so far, please do give us a thumbs up, share, and subscribe. I hear the like thing is a good for our YouTube algorithms and gets our message out to as many nonprofits as possible. So thank you for that. So here's some real life case studies, lessons from the field that I've picked up. So here's one is an organization that I work with that had mismanaged funds. So this was a renowned nonprofit, and it faced public backlash when it revealed that a significant portion of its revenues or donations was used for lavish board retreats. So this breach of trust had lasting repercussions on the organization's reputation and also their donor relationships. So you have to think about that. And remember, your informational form 990 that you file with the IRS, anyone can look that up. If you go to 990 Finder or GuideStar, that information can be pulled up, and then what happens is your donors can see where you spend your money, and also if you had a diversion of assets, which is theft, you can actually see that on your 990. So be very careful. I always say the 990 is a report card for your organization. It tells a lot about your organization's story. So here's another story, the undisclosed conflict. Had tons of these, and I hear them all the time, and I actually experience them on a regular basis, and it's just maybe a misunderstanding of what they are and what they should be and what folks should be disclosing. So the policy that I'm including, I think it really does speak to a lot of the things that you're probably going to run across, and it'll help to educate your board. So here's a story. A board member secured a lucrative contract for a company secretly owned by his brother. When the truth came out, the organization faced legal challenges and a loss of public trust. Don't think that your directors and officers liability insurance will cover you for willful misconduct, because that's always the thing. It's like, well, we have insurance, and if there's a lawsuit, and again, if you've done something wrong and it's willful misconduct, you're on your own, and that should have been disclosed, and actually it could lead to further legal issues. So again, I highly recommend just disclose. You're serving as a volunteer leader. Why get yourself in trouble if you're a company? The third one is the mission drift, I call it. So initially focused on local community development. So they started diverting funds to international projects without clear alignment with their mission. This led to internal conflicts. The donors were like, what are you doing with our money? And a loss of focus for the organization. It was just too much. It was scope creep. The fourth one is the overstepping chair. Have we ever seen that? Or president? So this was a membership nonprofit that I worked with. The board chair began making executive decisions without consulting other board members, becoming a lone wolf president or chair, and didn't even consult the executive director. So how can you not talk to your team about what's happening? So this not only violated the duty of care, but also created a rift within the board, leading to inefficiencies and mistrust. It was just a mess. But in conclusion, board leadership is both an honor and a responsibility. So by understanding and upholding the fiduciary duties of care, loyalty, and obedience, board members can guide their nonprofits to success, impact, and also a lasting legacy. That's what we want. We want the organization to thrive and survive. So as I mentioned, in addition to the sample conflict of interest policy I'm providing, I would also like to provide you with Association Options Governance and Operations Toolkit. So both are linked below. So remember this, the journey of mastering board leadership is continuous. You have to stay informed. You have to stay engaged. You have to prioritize the mission and integrity of your organization. Thank you for joining me and the nonprofit life on this deep dive into board leadership. If you found this insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to the Nonprofit Life for more valuable content. And for those looking to further their knowledge, check out the Essential Handbook for Nonprofit Leaders. It's available on Amazon.com, launched in April. Finally, check out my website, associationoptions.com, for free articles and resources. Thank you for joining us today.